Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, leader funding has been invaluable to many businesses and community organisations across County Wexford, and with a new leader programme on the horizon for later in 2023, Wexford Local Development will be hosting a series of public consultations to find out what you think the funding should be used for. Tom Bermingham is the coordinator of the Leader programme for Wexford Local Development, and he joins us now. Tom, by way of context, talk to us about Wexford Local Development and what Leader is all about.
Morning, Karl. Thanks for having me. Well, I suppose, Karl, Wexford Local Development are a community group with charitable status who implement a lot of different programmes on behalf of various government bodies. The LEADER programme is operating in Ireland and indeed across all EU member states for over 30 years now. It's really about improving the quality of life in rural areas and for making rural areas better places for people to live and to socialise and so on, Karl.
And of course, Tom, many will associate Leader with community projects, but there's an awful lot more to it than that, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. Leader, I agree, it does tend to It kind of falls under the Department of Rural and Community Development, right, rather than anything to do with economic development. But ironically, it has a major impact on rural areas through the fact that at least half of the budget of LEADER goes to rural businesses, small businesses, and that a whole variety of what we call niche businesses throughout the county.
And how important is the LEADER programme and indeed the LEADER funding to the county?
Well, just to give you an example, Karl, in the last year alone, there was around 730,000 was allocated to between 14 businesses across the county. In addition to that, there was 6 tourism-focused feasibility studies that were funded. These all have the potential to result in unique additions to the tourism infrastructure in the county. But the businesses that I mentioned, some of these would be start-up, some of these would be existing businesses. They would be sort of some of the niche food producers, as well as tourism enterprises and some specialised engineering services from right across the county, Karl.
And can you provide us with some specific examples, Tom, of some of the projects that were funded in the previous LEADER programme?
Yeah, there's a whole variety of them, Karl. Looking at just last year alone, I'm thinking initially in Wexford with a company called Scoop Gelato. You'd be familiar with them from their stand on Wexford Quayside there across the road from the radio station. They would have got considerable grant aid for production equipment to facilitate expansion. Then looking at the tourism side, again, listeners would be familiar with the Leisure Max in Wexford and with Pirates Cove in Courtown. Both of them would have availed of LEADER funding for additional activities in their centres. A very important part of tourism, indeed, to cover indoor activities in a county that has a lot of domestic tourists coming in. And the manufacturing side, companies thinking of Morris Manufacturing in Enniscorthy, they would have got funding for equipment for their trailer manufacturing business. There are over 40 food producers in the county, some excellent businesses, and LEADER would have played a part in pretty much all of them at this stage.
Of course, LEADER operates on a 4-year cycle, so tell us, what do you know about the new LEADER funding programme?
Well, yeah, we've just completed, as I say, we've just completed the last programme, Karl, and we're now in the planning stages for the new programme, which will commence sometime later on this year, and it will run until 2027. There's not too many changes to the last time. Wexford is fortunate enough we've been allocated a budget of 7.3 million to cover us for that period. Now, that is important to remember that figure covers everything from the staffing costs to all the implementation costs and everything, rental of buildings for the company, all of that type of thing. But the program is divided into 3 different themes, and I suppose specifically for listeners to your program, the theme of economic development and job creation, which is really, along the same lines as it was before, but there is more of a focus this time on I suppose, what we would collectively call the green economy, where they're looking ideally at projects that might promote the circular and the bioeconomy. There's also a continued focus on agricultural diversification. That's where farmers diversify specifically into non-agricultural activities. Rural tourism, county like Wexford, is going to remain a big focus for us, and that would include cultural and heritage initiatives, anything really that contributes to what we call the sustainable development of rural tourism. General enterprise development will continue, but this time there's going to be an increased focus on female entrepreneurs. But we'll also include social enterprises, because they're a very important part of the economy as well, often filling gaps in the market that just might not be viable or attractive to private enterprise.
And Tom, will grant aid percentages and funding limits remain as they were?
The grant aid, Karl, we're told that the grant aid will remain the same. So I'd be happy to say that it looks like the grant aid for private enterprises will remain at up to 75%, which is certainly substantial. Traditionally it used to be 50%, and then when the impact of COVID and Brexit, it was increased to 75%. So while we're not absolutely definite on it yet, it looks like it could remain up to 75%.
And Tom, yourself and the team in WLD are just about to start the process with a view to informing the next local development strategy for Leader. So what will that entail?
Well, Leader, Karl, is what they call the bottom-up. It entails the bottom-up approach to development. So it's really about the people on the ground saying what their needs are, and Leader then endeavours to come up with a plan that will address those needs, and we prioritise those needs. So rather than it being top-down, in other words, people saying, well, this is what we're going to fund, we have to get the views of the people. So over the next couple of weeks, particularly the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing public consultation meetings in each of the 5 municipal districts, and we're inviting people from the business and community sector to come out and essentially tell us what they need. We'll obviously give them guidelines. Leader can't fund everything. The key thing with Leader is that things are niche. You have to be filling a gap in the market for whatever it is you're doing, whatever service you're providing. But we will be listening to people, Karl, and inviting people to complete surveys. The surveys online on our website. We want as much interaction with people as possible, and then when we get as many views as possible in, we will be coming up with a plan, and we have to make a submission to the Department of Rural and Community Development by the 14th of July with a full plan. It's called a local development strategy, and that will have to show where every euro of the money that's allocated to Wexford, where we're going to allocate it.
And Tom, who specifically would you like to come out and attend these meetings?
Well, right across the board, Karl, we want to see people from existing businesses, people who have maybe start-up businesses in mind, right across the sector. They can be tourism-related, food-related, or manufacturing. We want to listen to all types. Because Leader is right across the board. We're not confined to businesses that have, micro businesses with less than 10 employees. We can grant aid businesses right up the scale to 50 to 100 employees. So we want a broad cross-section of people from all sectors, Karl.
So when and where are these meetings taking place, Tom?
So over the next 2 weeks, Karl, we're starting off on Wednesday. That's Wednesday the 19th in the Brandon House Hotel in New Ross. Then on Thursday the 20th, we're in the Coast Hotel in Rosslare. Following week then, Monday night the 24th of April in the Ferry Carrick Hotel in Wexford. Wednesday night the 26th, we're in the Ashdown Park Hotel in Gorey. And finally on Thursday the 27th, we're in the Riverside Park in Enniscorthy. All these meetings, Karl, will be from 7 until 9 p.m.
So, Tom, once that feedback has been collected and collated and considered by WLD, and you then go and develop this local development strategy for Leader, what are the next steps then afterwards?
We have to submit this strategy to the Department of Rural and Community Development by the 14th of July. That will be assessed by a team of people in the department, and we await to hear from them essentially until it's approved essentially by them. We can't start the programme. But all going well and being confident of all of that, we expect that we should know and that the programme would launch somewhere in September time. And I should say also it's in cooperation with Wexford County Council as well. We're all working for the betterment of the whole county.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Tom Bermingham from Wexford Local Development, and I would certainly encourage all businesses across the county to make sure they have their say at one of the upcoming public consultations.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast.